Hi, I'm Officer Jake Morris with the LORAIN Police Department. I'm one of the co-advisors for the LORAIN Police Explorers Program. Today, we are setting up a live mock crime scene practical exercise. Basically, the meeting that we had prior to this, we went over what detectives do when they come to a major crime scene, such as a murder or another major high-profile type crime. The responses to that typically include things like collecting DNA evidence, investigatory photography, also fingerprint evidence, latent evidence, things that we can use to kind of figure out the whodunit. Today, our explorers that are involved with our Explorer program are going to try their hand at collecting this evidence and properly observing the evidence the same exact way as a police detective would. We're going to have two crime scenes set up today. Both are going to be death scenes, death investigations. One's going to be a murder where a male has a suicide note. He's been stabbed to death. Things don't quite add up. He is stabbed in the back several times, yet he's written a suicide note, and it could be sort of a lover's triangle kind of thing. It takes place in a motel room. And the explorers are going to have to figure out who's the person responsible for the crime. We're going to put them in different roles. Some are going to be the detectives in charge of DNA evidence and processing items for that type of evidence. Others are going to be in charge of fingerprint processing. We're going to have people in charge of police photography or detective photography. We're going to have a detective in charge. And we're also going to have an assistant detective in charge who can kind of allocate each detective to the different jobs, to the many different jobs. So what we're going to do is we're going to handle that crime scene first. After they've processed all the evidence and sent things out to the labs to try to determine whose blood this is or whose fingerprint that is, we are going to move on to crime scene number 2. Crime scene number 2 is another death investigation. This one takes place inside of a vacant property, and it looks to be some sort of kind of drug deal gone bad. They're going to have to figure out, again, the whodunit. Part of it is going to be, again, photography, the allocation of DNA evidence, physical evidence on scene, and also fingerprint evidence. After they send everything to the lab, we're going to come back to the classroom. We're going to give them the results of their laboratory submissions, and we're going to allow them to formulate a reasonable thought on who may have been the person that they seek an indictment against, or people. After they've done that, we're going to kind of disclose exactly what happened in this scene, and then we're going to ask them whether the scene would support that actually happening. So basically, if somebody says that they did something in self-defense, we're going to ask them to reflect back on what they saw when they walked in, and we're going to ask them if the scene would support that person's statement or if it would contradict that person's statement. And as a detective, they're going to have to move forward or make contact with the prosecutor's office and work together to try to hold the responsible parties or the parties at fault responsible.